We finished closed session and we are reporting that our GM's job performance was satisfactory. That's the language. Frankly, it was stellar. We're very happy with Bob and Wendy's efforts this year, and we'll continue to do that. That's it. Okay. So please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you for coming. Is there any, roll call?
Microphones?
Director?
Oh, they are coming on.
Oh, there it is.
Director Diamond, sorry.
Here.
Director Odette.
Here.
And Director Hetherington.
Here.
Director Rolfe.
Here.
Director Stevens.
Here.
All present.
Any special orders of business? Rick?
I have two special orders of business. First, it's Lauren Tapia's birthday. Happy birthday, Lauren. And secondly, I'd like to report that Kelly Wu ran the Boston Marathon in a personal record of 3 hours and 31 minutes
Yeah.
9 days ago. And she can still walk. Congratulations to both of you.
Okay. Modification of agenda. I think David has something.
No, we don't anymore.
Oh, we don't need to do that? Okay.
We
All
don't
right.
need to do that.
Okay, anybody else modification of agenda? No, okay. I'm going to read the Speak Your Piece norms as a reminder for how to conduct ourselves during this meeting. Pay attention, be aware, and attend to the world and the people around you. Listen, focus on others in order to better understand their points of view. Be inclusive. Welcome all groups and citizens working for the greater good of the community. Don't gossip and don't accept when others choose to do so. Show respect. Honor other people and their opinions, especially in the midst of a disagreement. Be agreeable. Look for opportunities to agree. Don't contradict just to do so. Apologize. Be sincere and repair damaged relationships. Give constructive criticism. Stick to the issues and don't make a personal attack. Take responsibility. Don't place blame onto others and share disagreements publicly. Okay. All right, now's the time for public comment. Anybody who has anything that's not on the agenda, you're welcome to come up to the microphone.
Cool. Good evening. My name is Sven Leff. I'm the new general manager for the Truckee Donner Recreation and Park District. Been there 3 months. Just came to introduce myself to the board and to the staff. I've worked with Rob a little bit. Know a couple of you. Mary's a Thursday night regular. Tuesday nights, I think, in the summertime. But just wanted to A, introduce myself, B, reach out and just, invite anytime you guys have questions or challenges or ideas about Recreation and Park District, don't hesitate to reach out to me by email or phone or whatever. I'm very lucky to have, kind of been able to succeed Steve Randall, 38 years of contributions in community building. I inherit a fantastic facility in my favorite community in the world. Been visiting here since the 70s, and the family I grew up in had property. Long time. I've watched this town grow, and this was, I took a demotion to even get to town before I could get into Steve's seats, because I love it here. And I'm excited about what we do and what we do as partner agencies and what our future really appears to be. The three main areas I just want to thank you guys for, top of mind, there's at least 3 different facilities that the airport district has really invested in with the Rec and Park District. First of all, there's the community pool. The airport made a significant contribution so that the community pool in the area, I believe it is in the flight plane, but if whatever the technical area is to keep it safe and secure, that really helped, I know, get that project constructed, and the community loves it. It truly is probably our most active facility on a year's, attendance count. The second one, of course, is Ponderosa Golf Course. That is your property. I know there's several entities came into moving that from private hands back into public. We are your operator. I believe you guys are the landowner and the land trust and the town. Others parties, of course, were involved with that. And we continue to really try to make the Ponderosa Golf Course awesome. Now, it's still kind of buried in snow, or sections of it, but we've been working hard to, the irrigation project made the grass better last year than in anybody's memory, and other investments made by the airport district there are great. And so we're appreciative for that. And I had a third, and I'm spacing. Pickleball. Thank you very much. You guys have had a grant to the pickleball club, and that one's on its still in the process. Let's put it that way. The status of that project actually is the concepts have been submitted to town planning for agency review and to learn what the conditions of approval are. So I know there's more ways we work together. I could probably talk your ear off. I don't have those thoughts prepared though. So anyways, it's just nice to meet you all. And don't hesitate to reach out.
And the downtown park.
And the downtown park. That was another one of the big grants ones, yes. Well, if we go just to the grant cycle, there's several that the airport has invested in with Rec and Park over the years. There's still a third I think I'm missing, but I won't bother you. So nice to meet you all. Thank you for your service here with this district. And again, reach out if you need anything.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else for public comment? Tom, is that right?
Hi, my name is Tom Springett. I live over on East River Street, and the issue I'm going to be talking about tonight is the noise. And a lot of the noise that is basically, above my house has to do with the training flights and maybe people just practicing their takeoff and landings. Monday, there was one plane that took off and landed like 15 times. And if you look at Flight Aware, there's 15 loops around our house. And that just seems to be excessive. Just for comparison, a lot of times the jets aren't as much of an issue as the training flights are. The jets take off and 10 seconds later they're gone. But the training flights they seem to be almost hovering above our house. We've submitted a number of noise complaints, and David's been very good about replying and doing what he can, but I think it has to go above David. I think we need some policies that address this issue. I sent out some emails, and in general, this is not a new problem. This has been going on for a year or two, and there just hasn't really been any meaningful impact to reducing this problem. I mean, I know there's a suggestion to use runway 2, but for one reason or another, runway 2 doesn't seem to be available. And, once again, this just is a consistent problem. It's a community-wide problem. I'm just a voice of it tonight. And I'd like to hear a stronger response from the board about what can be done to modify the noise abatement policies to address this specific issue of repeated takeoff and landings. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, is there any public, Tal.
Hi, my name is Tal Fletcher. I wasn't planning to comment tonight, and I don't mean to make this a one-on-one conversation with you, but what you said just prompted me to get up and raise my hand. I wasn't flying yesterday, but I believe a friend of mine was, and I think he was, and I know this isn't a space for like a dialogue, I just wanted to throw another perspective out there. The plane had just had major maintenance done, and for safety reasons, he had to do a number of flights without leaving the area, and he wanted to use the longest runway possible for, it's too long to get into now. But just in the name of community dialogue and let's talk and let's get together and work it out. I live in a noise-sensitive house also. I'm in Sierra Meadows, just less than a mile away. So I'm sensitive to noise stuff too, and I think with good communication we can work together and talk about things like that and hopefully find some common ground. So I don't mean to be looking just at you. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make, but just thought I'd jump in when I heard what you said, because I appreciate it and I think you have valid concerns. Thanks.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody in the room? Okay, so we'll move on to the Zoom hands. I see Richard Pearl.
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to
Sorry,
make.
I don't mean to be looking just at you.
Just thought I'd
It's a
jump
public
in.
comment,
but that I wasn't expecting to make, but just thought I'd jump in when I heard what you said. Thanks.
Great, thanks.
Appreciate it. And I think you have valid concerns.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. So we'll Is that it for everybody in the hands? I see Richard Pearl. To the Zoom
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to
Sorry, I don't
make.
mean to be
but,
looking just at you.
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make, but just thought I'd jump in. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make, but just thought I'd jump in.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody in the hands? I see. So we'll move on to the Zoom hands.
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make, but just thought I'd jump in. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make, but just thought I'd jump in.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. So is that it for everybody in the hands? I see. So we'll move on to the Zoom.
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. So is that it for everybody? I see some hands up on Zoom. So is that it for everybody?
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. So is that it for everybody? I see some hands up on Zoom. So is that it for everybody? I see. So we'll move on to the Zoom.
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? I see some hands up on Zoom. So is that it for everybody? I see some hands up on Zoom. So is that it for everybody?
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. So is that it for everybody? I see some hands up on Zoom. So is that it for everybody?
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? I see some hands. Thank you, Richard. I see Larry's hand up. Larry Suter.
Yeah, my name is Larry Sutter.
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? I see some Larry's hand up. Thank you, Richard. I see Larry's hand up.
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? I see some Larry's hand up. Thank you.
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? I see some
Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in.
Okay, I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? I see some hands up on Zoom. Is that it for everybody? I see some hands up on Zoom.
It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. It's a public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make. Just thought I'd jump in. Public comment, but that I wasn't expecting to make.
Thank you, Larry. I see Carol's hand. Carol Hines.
Hi, I'm Carol Hines, the current president of Truckee Tahoe Soaring Association. It's nice to be able to talk to you again. I have a couple of clarifications I want to make based on what Richard said and Larry said. Mary, you asked me when I saw you last month, you were saying some comment about these are new program this year, but it's not. The only thing new in what Larry described this year is the soaring days. We haven't had those in the past. And we feel that's a very valuable thing, and we're partnering with the EAA to try and coordinate that, perhaps with the same time they do the Young Eagles flight. And I don't remember what I was going to clarify with Richard, except that, oh yes, Director Stevens, you had asked me why we didn't do an appraisal, and I told you we couldn't afford it, and that is absolutely true. But in addition to that, recognize that what the rent study is not an appraisal. And so, and that's what one of the things that concerns us is that you're using this rent study as an appraisal when it is not. The FAA pointed out that in reading that they saw that even though there was an appraiser assigned to the project, he did not sign any of the documents. So. As Richard said, you're using false information to set our rates. And I want to reiterate what I said in my written comment, that it really saddens me, because I feel like I've developed a relationship with all of you, and particularly with Rob, that it saddens me to have had to take this step to bring in the FAA to get you to comply with your grant assurances. I mean, yeah, I'm emotional about it. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Carol. Is there anybody else on Zoom who'd like to make public comment? Okay. Next.
There was somebody waving a hand, but now I don't see him.
Oh,
But,
I don't see anybody. I think when they raise the hand, it goes to the front of the, yeah.
no, but I mean, like.
Oh,
doing
yeah,
this.
no, like a physical hand, yeah. All right, moving on to consent. Help me with this, Josh. We just need to make one exception.
No,
Is
so we can just check to see if any directors would like to pull any items. And if not, after public comment, we can have a motion to approve. And then I believe Director Diamond will be recusing himself from one
Okay.
portion of the consent calendar.
Okay. All right.
I don't want to pull anything.
Okay.
Me either.
Nope.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Public comment?
Oh, yes, public comment. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Okay.
I'll make a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
You got your mic on?
Oh, no, sorry. Mike's not on. I'll make the motion. We approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Director Diamond.
I recuse myself from tab 5, the item number, or on line 17, which is the Rec and Park request, because I do have a conflict there, and I vote yes on everything else.
Director Hetherington.
Yes.
Director Odette.
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Passes.
Right, action items, annual audit report. We have Kelly, and looks like we have an auditor here too.
Yes, we have,
There he is,
this
right
is
here.
James Marta. I'll
Awesome.
turn it over to you.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Odette?
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Passes.
Action items, annual audit report. Right, action items, annual audit report. We have Kelly, and looks like we have an auditor here too.
Yes, we have,
Kelly, and there he is.
this
Looks
is
like
James
we have an
Marta.
auditor.
I'll turn it over to you. Yes, we have,
There he is.
Director Rolfe.
James Marta.
Yes.
Turn it over to you.
Stevens.
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Passes.
Action items.
Director Stevens.
Audit
Yes.
report.
Passes.
Action items, annual audit report. Kelly, action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have,
Kelly and
this
looks like
is James
we have an
Marta.
auditor here.
Turn it over to Yes, we have, Director James Marta.
Yes.
Turn it over to you, Linda.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Passes.
Action items, annual audit
Yes.
report. Action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have,
Kelly and looks like we have
James
an
Marta.
auditor here.
Yes, we have, Director James Marta. Turn it over to you, we have, Director James Marta.
Yes.
Turn it over to you, Linda.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Passes.
Action items, annual audit
Yes.
report. Action items, annual audit report. Kelly, action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have, James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta.
Yes.
Turn it over to you, we have, Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Action items,
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Passes.
action items, annual audit report. Action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have, James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta.
Yes.
Turn it over to you, Linda.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Passes.
Action items, annual audit
Yes.
report. Action items, annual audit report. Kelly, action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have, James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta. Turn it over to you, we have, Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Action items,
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Passes.
action items, annual audit report. Action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have, James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta. Turn it over to you, we have, Director James Marta.
Yes.
Turn it over to you, Linda.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Passes.
Action items, annual audit
Yes.
report. Action items, annual audit report. Kelly, action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have, James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta. Turn it over to you, we have, Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Action items,
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Passes.
action items, annual audit report. Action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have, James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta.
Yes.
Turn it over to you, Linda.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Passes.
Action items, annual audit
Yes.
report. Action items, annual audit report. Kelly, action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have, James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta. Turn it over to you, we have, Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Action items,
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Passes.
action items, annual audit report. Action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have, James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta.
Yes.
Turn it over to you, Linda.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Passes.
Action items, annual audit
Yes.
report. Action items, annual audit report. Kelly, action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have, James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta. Turn it over to you, we have, Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Action items,
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Passes.
action items, annual audit report. Action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have, James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta.
Yes.
Turn it over to you, we have, Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Director Passes.
Action items, annual audit
Yes.
report. Action items, annual audit report. Kelly, action items, annual audit report.
Yes, we have, James Marta. Turn it over, yes, we have, Director James Marta. Turn it over to you, we
Okay, without any other, without any other,
Did you have anything to add, Kelly? Well, it looks great. Thank you for all your hard work. I know it's a big chunk of the spring or late winter every year, and it's another successful audit, looks like. Thank you. Is there any public comment about the audit? Did you have anything to add, Kelly? All right, great. Did you have anything to add, Kelly? Well, it looks great. Thank you for all your hard work. I know it looks great. It's a big chunk of the spring every hard work. I know it's late winter.
Thank you. I move to accept the audit and draft financial statements for the calendar year ending December 31, 2022, as prepared and presented by the auditors, and recommend issuance of the final report.
Second?
Director Diamond,
Yes, and thank you, Kelly.
Director Hetherington, Director Odette,
Yes.
and Director Rolfe,
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so we've already had a little presentation on the appropriations limit. Does anyone have any questions about that? Do we need to discuss that further? Is there any public comment? Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
I move that we approve resolution number 2023-3 of the Truckee Tahoe Airport District. Do I have to say and waive the reading? So I move we approve this resolution.
I'll second.
Director Diamond?
Yes.
Director Hetherington?
Yes.
Director Odette?
Yes.
Director Rolfe?
Yes.
Director Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Okay, item number 9, Climate Transformation Alliance, MOU.
Thank you, Kat. Under this item, we have a continuation of Phase 2 work as an MOU with the Sierra Business Council and our partners in the Climate Transformation Alliance. The work has begun this last year and is planned to continue through the end of this year as Phase 2 work. A little of this is administrative catch-up to where we're at now, to be honest. And so I'm presenting for the Board of Directors consideration the Phase 2 MOU with the Climate Transformation Alliance, has an agreement with the Sierra Business Council to perform a scope of work outlined in the MOU.
All right, does anybody have any questions? Is there any public comment? Make a motion.
I move that we approve Phase 2 MOU for the Climate Transformation Alliance partnership with the Sierra Business Council from July 2022 through December 31st, 2023.
I'll second.
Director Diamond?
Yes.
Director Hetherington?
Yes.
Director Odette?
Yes.
Director Rolfe?
Yes.
Director Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And I'll just add, it was great to have Director Diamond at the last meeting.
I was floored at how huge that group has become.
That was actually
Great job.
a smaller meeting than the previous one, but yeah. it's
Unbelievable.
A lot of good energy in that group. Okay, Climate Transformation Alliance Accelerator Project.
Yes, this is for the board's consideration as a new effort and opportunity to partner with the fellow members of the Climate Transformation Alliance and the Sierra Business Council to really target some seed funding as part of our policy instruction 311 would be $5,000 and below per accelerator project that are outlined in this paper to begin allowing the Sierra Business Council and the other partners in the Climate Transformation Alliance to seek other seed funding to help accelerate more immediate solutions that have been outlined in these 5 broad areas in this paper in front of you. Happy to take questions about that.
Any questions?
Nope.
Nope. Any public comments? All right. Motion?
All right. I move to approve the funding of $30,000 in seed Climate Transformation Alliance Accelerator Project funding following the guidelines of Policy Instruction 311.
I'll second.
Director Diamond?
Yes.
Director Hetherington?
Yes.
Director Odette?
Yes.
Director Rolfe?
Yes.
Director Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Cooking with gas. Yeah. Okay. All right, discussion items. Number 11, TTAD, TTSA, land exchange.
I'll start with just an overview of this. There is a staff report in your books and the material for the public. This is a land exchange that has been considered and talked about, and if it's possible to pull up on the screen, the map might be the best way to talk about this visually. Oh, you can. On the staff report. So the Truckee Tahoe Sanitation Agency and the Truckee Tahoe Airport District have been in discussions for real property exchange as part of Section 163 of the Federal Aviation Administration's guidelines regulating land exchanges for airports. A number of years ago, the district here at the airport and TTSA have started talking about these 3 different parcels of land that you see on the map. Parcel B, the blue area, is owned by the airport district, was purchased with local funds of the airport district, not FAA provided funds. Area C and D at the end and edges of our 2 primary runways are owned by the sanitary agency. And it had come into conversation some number of years ago that the airport district was interested in acquiring the areas A and C because they were in direct interest to our aviation operations and our protected areas around our runways. And so the discussion was entered into exchanging those areas for the property the district owned, and Area B there, which is elevation-wise much lower and less of a direct impact to our aviation operations. This exchange was discussed in detail. The details are provided for in the board book and this material here. But we did end up sending the opportunity for this exchange to the FAA for their review for disposing of land of the airport district that has interest and involvement with the FAA. The FAA determination of this exchange was the FAA has no interest or no regulatory ability to have an opinion about this exchange. So we just received that opinion back. So now we're at the point now to have a discussion about the merits of the exchange, what direction the board is thinking about going with the exchange at this point, the value of it, timing, other considerations that are involved, whether it be with TTSA or with the town of Truckee for plans that they may have. So at this point, I will stop with that as a brief summary and turn over to the board of directors and the public for a discussion.
Would you like to go first?
I will go first. Forgive me because I've got a lot to say on this. The last time this came to our board, I was not opposed to this. My primary concern was that this region needs land, primarily for the purposes of light industrial, but in the benefit of making that land available for light industrial, we're actually able to move other businesses and organizations into that land and make the other land available for workforce housing and other other purposes. An example of this is the Truckee Donner PUD building, which is on Tahoe, or rather Donner Pass Road. They are interested in moving over there, which would free up that land for some housing opportunities. I spoke with their general manager, Brian Wright, today, and he confirmed that to me. So we know that. We know there's discussion about light industrial on West River being relocated and making that land available for other purposes. This was my primary objection to giving up that parcel that we had, is that I was afraid that by doing that, that land would then get locked into the TTSA kingdom and never be available for any other purpose. I'm not sure that I feel that way now. I did watch the TTSA meeting from February where they had a great discussion about this, and their directors brought up some valid concerns, David Smelzer and Dale Cox in particular, that I think they are looking at, and they do need to look at before they decide that they're going to surplus any land for any other purposes. So I applaud them that. I also went to their last meeting, and frankly, I was impressed by the discussion that I saw there. This is not the TTSA that we have been told about in the past. This was not, that reputation was, I think, unjustified. There were a few things. There was a reception to the idea that there's a value in surplusing land, which I really respected. They have also recently completed a pilot program to change their processing from chlorine to bleach, which is something that we have been asking for or wanting for a very, very long time. This is huge news for this region. This is very important. They've done, that's in, especially for the folks over in Glenshire, that's super significant. Because it's a much, much safer process. It potentially reduces that buffer zone that is being used right now for that safety. And I applaud them for that. As I said in that meeting, I don't feel like they're going to get the community appreciation that you deserve for that, but that was huge that they did that. They were recognizing their staff for that, which I really appreciated. Basically, the way I see this now, TTSA has a lot of land over there, and there is a lot of need for that land, and these folks are poised to be heroes regionally for making that land available, and I do feel like that discussion is on the table, very much on the table at TTSA for that. So for that reason, I mean, I would suggest that just as, this comes back as an action item, maybe June, and then we discuss what to actually do about it. I don't have the concerns about this that I had last time. That's all.
I'm always ready. I think it's very important, and unfortunately, we are not having a presentation that was scheduled by the town, Jennifer Calloway. She was scheduled to come in here, and she put it off because the town didn't make a decision. And the decision on this issue is very important to me, and I would like to know what the town's intentions are, and we haven't heard that. And there's discussion of that. And while I appreciate David's report about TTSA, I'd also like to hear from TTSA what their intentions are. I have talked to a couple directors, and I get mixed feelings on whether they're going to be the new TTSA, and I'd like to hear from them directly. Not reported third party, either by me talking to a couple directors or David or anybody else. So I'd like to hear from the parties at hand before I vote on the issue. I'd like to be better informed, is what I'm saying. I've had calls from people who are saying that that staff is recommending to upgrade the town staff upgrade the industrial on the north side of West River and work on the south side off. But I don't know that. And this issue of getting industrial off of West River has been cooking, I would say, for 20 years. And nothing's happened. Now this seems like it might be ripe, but let's see. So I wait to hear, hopefully Jennifer Calloway will come in May, and hopefully TTSA could come and we could learn more before we make a intelligent decision. That's my comment.
I watched all 10 hours of the town general plan discussion over 2 nights, and it all comes down to having a receiver site to clean up West River. I've lived here since 1990, and since that time, we've always talked about cleaning up West River. And that was, if it doesn't happen in this general plan, it will never happen. And this is a great opportunity because my daughter got up and spoke and said she's in the trades, and all the tradespeople need industrial land, and we don't have it. And this is the opportunity to get it. And the fact that we're getting away from a chlorine gas to a liquid hydrochlorine system is much safer, and that's very promising. That was, and what is most exciting about this is I've been a big fan of how do our special districts work together rather than all of us living in our silos, because we all live here. The lake will benefit from having industrial property available. Truckee will benefit. Placer County, part of Truckee, will benefit. We need to have that industrial space, and we need to do it in a way such that we have a receiver site. We have almost 40 acres. If TTSA can put something with that, this is a very exciting idea. We had talked about putting a business park back there in '05, but it wasn't ripe then. It wasn't needed. But now it is. We've all grown since '05. So I'm very excited about it, because if we can get the PUD, which I'm just hearing about, I've heard Caltrans wants to move. If we can clear out the West River, which it's going to take time, that is a great place for housing. It ties to transit, it's close to groceries, it's an exciting potential. But if it doesn't happen with this general plan, and that's going to be the May 9th hearing, and if there's no receiver site, then they're going to leave West River as industrial. So I'm pretty excited that TTSA is here and open to the idea. And that 40 acres is, if they're not moving in that direction, that 40 acres is critical to providing that industrial use.
So I'm not clear. Are you for this or against this? You want to keep the property or you want to give it away?
I want to see what happens with the town general plan if there's a receiver site, if TTSA has a receiver site, and how much land they will provide. And if the town needs in their analysis, how many acres do they need? That's what I've not heard. Is 100 acres enough? Is 40 acres is enough? Is 20 acres enough? But I'm not willing to trade this off if there's not that idea of other properties available. A receiver site is critical.
All right. Yes, it's my turn.
It's your turn.
Well, I'm with Rick and Mary in terms of wanting more information to hear from those guys. But on the other hand, I know this isn't going to come out right, but it's not. Our mission is to run the airport. So I'm interested in what's best for the airport, not necessarily what's best for industrial. And I agree with all those things. You know, we need housing, we need all that stuff, but it is not our mission sitting here. We weren't voted in to solve those problems. So I need some reason to say yes or some reason to say no. If it's good for the airport to swap it, I'm all for it. If it's not, then I'm not, because that's what I was voted to do. Tip.
All right. I agree with everything that was set up here, but mostly I view my role as an airport board director as being charged with making decisions that are best for the airport. And while I would love to see all the problems solved, I'm really glad I'm not on town council and have to make those decisions. So I see that the properties that are that we might swap for are much more valuable to us as an airport than the property that we own now, that we have no easement to, and really isn't serving us at this time. I am heartened to hear that TTSA is open to swapping. I don't know if we did swap the 40 acres that they wouldn't turn around and offer that to the town for light industrial as well. So I guess I feel like, for myself anyway, I would like to stick to my mission as an airport director, and I feel like the swap benefits the airport more than it doesn't. So Yeah, go ahead.
Just to put some context on this, and this is one of the reasons that I want to be careful about this, is that the ruling that we just got from the FAA, where they said we have no jurisdiction over this, was primarily because the land was purchased with public money. The swap will now turn that into aeronautical land, and then our options for that use of that land then become very restricted. And so we are taking a public asset and trading it for what would only be used for airport purposes. So there is a question there when that public asset is needed by the public outside of the airport. That's where I kind of feel like I'm encouraged by the direction that this is going on the greater scale, but I do feel like that's worth noting on for that land.
David, I don't understand what you're saying. What become airport assets if we did the swap, A and C?
Yeah, primarily A, because it's in the safety zone for the runway.
And C's not really real property, it's an easement.
It's kind of not really much we could do with that anyway.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. So right now, if you think of the B, and granted, it is landlocked by TTSA, and we don't have an easement for it, which is significant. But there's potential uses for that would benefit the people who paid for it, which are the taxpayers out in the district. And then once that swap goes through, A and C, basically we give up that opportunity for that. So I think it's worth considering that.
Thank you for the clarification.
So that.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else up here? Okay, let's open it up for public comment. Dan Wilkins.
Thanks, Kat. Nice to see all these friendly faces up here. So, for the record, I'm here representing TTSA and the current board president. And I'm also an employee of the town of Truckee. Fortunately for me, I'm not heavily involved in the general plan. So I'm an elected representative, a board member to the Tahoe City Public Utility District. And then they, as a board, appoint me to the TTSA board, and then that's what the TTSA board is made up of, is appointed directors. So North Tahoe PUD has an appointed director. I'm an appointed director representing Tahoe City PUD. Olympic Valley Public Service District has an appointed director, as does Alpine Springs Community Service District and the Truckee Sanitary District. So that's those 5 representatives make up the TTSA board. As David alluded to, the TTSA board was relatively static for 30 plus years, where there was not a lot of board turnover, if any. So over the past 7 years or so, there has been new directors. So I joined TTSA 6 or 7 years ago. Shortly after that, Blake Trezin, who is the general manager of Truckee Sanitary District, was appointed by TSD to replace Oz Butterfield, who had been on the board for about 40 years. Shortly after that, Dave Smeltzer was appointed by the Alpine Springs Community Service District to replace John Northrup, who was their representative. And then within the past year, the North Tahoe Public Utility District representative, used to be Lane Lewis, was replaced by Scott Wilson. So new group of people over there for the most part. The Olympic Valley director, Dale Cox, he's probably been on the board about 30 years, and he's our longest tenured director there. So my observation, having observed the transition in the board, is some of the maybe some of the beliefs of years gone past some of the opinions and positions from years gone by are changing, I think, with new members there, and it's a bit of an evolution process. So enough on what the TTSA board is. I wanted to thank you really for your stick-to-itiveness. The airport district and TTSA entered into the agreement where we basically put this land exchange under contract in 2019. So I was involved with that from 2016 to 2019, where there was, closed sessions on the TTSA side, I think closed sessions on the airport board side, a lot of back and forth. Ultimately, we came to an agreement and we entered into a contract where TTSA said we will transfer Area A to you as the airport. We will record an easement over Area C that effectively restricts any practical use of that property. And then you as the airport, in exchange, we're going to transfer Area B to us. That was 2019, and it came with a big asterisk that subject to FAA approval. And it's interesting that it took the FAA 4 years to decide that they didn't have any role in approving this or not. But it seemed like there was a lot of work that happened on your side to help get that determination. So thank you for that. We, as TTSA, remain committed to following through with that land exchange agreement, kind of on the timeline that you as the airport district see fit. We don't have any immediate plans for use of the land. It's not like there's some big project we're working on that's being held up by that. We want you as a number of new board members and us as a number of new board members all to be comfortable with what's happening, make sure that we're all good with what was agreed to previously. We as TTSA are, so we're prepared to move forward on the timing that the airport district is. And as Dave alluded, we've had a couple of recent conversations at TTSA regarding our land assets. So we are, I believe, the 4th largest government land holder in the region. So I think the Forest Service is the largest. I think California State Parks is second largest. I think you as the airport district are the 3rd largest landholder in the region, and I think TTSA is the 4th largest landholder. As such, we have held about 960 acres of land. That's what our total assets are as a passive open space use for about 40 to 45 years. There's I think there's a lot of public activity that happens out there. It's not like there's parks or organized activity, but there's a lot of just general public use of the property. The Legacy Trail crosses the property, and it seems to be a pretty popular dog walking area in the wintertime when other areas aren't plowed on the roads. So that's how that property has generally existed. We do have our plant there. It's a high risk facility in a couple of ways. One, when there were some of the terrorism type things that started happening a couple of decades ago, wastewater treatment plants were high on the list of kind of national security entities as it relates to some of the, number one, the function that they form. If you were to knock a facility like that offline, the environmental damage that can occur can be significant and dramatic. Also, some of the products that are used in the wastewater treatment process can be caustic and can be deadly to the public if there's accidental releases that occur. What David was referring to a moment ago was a project that our staff took on recently to modify one of our treatment processes. It's called disinfection. It's what kills all the viruses and the bacteria. There's different products you can use to do that. The way the plant was originally built, it relied on chlorine, which is very cost effective, but can be highly caustic if released to the environment. Fortunately, that's never happened. What we've recently switched to is a different product that's basically kind of a strong bleach product, and it's much less susceptible to causing major widespread problems in the event of an accidental release. So from our perspective, that's forward progress, and we really thank our staff for the leadership that they showed in implementing that project in a fairly short order. So I'm rambling on here. Because of some of these changes to our treatment processes and some renewed interest we've had from some other government agency partners, most notably the fire district. They approached us in the December-January timeframe, I think just before they approached you all, inquiring about the possibility of getting some land for a training facility. So we indicated to them, I think that as their project materializes, that we'd be interested in seeing what we could do to help them out with it. That prompted the board to request staff put an item on the agenda to help the current board more thoroughly understand what our land assets were, because we're new board members. So we received a presentation at our February board meeting. Staff gave us a lot of detail about the land assets, some of the encumbrances on those land assets. We asked that staff provide us more information, which they're planning to do at the June meeting. So we're going to receive another presentation with another level of detail regarding restrictions on our lands that may or may not exist. One of the things we're hoping to do as part of that process is work with your staff to better understand any restrictions that exist on the property as a result of the airfield overflight zones. We know there's different safety zones that are established, and there's different restrictions on what can be done in different land areas based on where they are in the flight path and the safety zones. So that's one of the things we're hoping to work with your staff on over the next couple of months to better understand. And then what I'm hoping happens is when we get that next level of detail, that will allow us as a board to have a more in-depth conversation about potentially surplusing land that's least critical to the TTSA mission and which may have value to other community priorities. We'll see where that conversation goes. As I think Rick mentioned, there still are different opinions on the board. I think there's some board members that are more interested in that. I think there's other board members that are more cautious about moving down that path. I'm hoping that June board meeting may help kind of clarify where some of the different board members stand on that issue. So as I hear your dialogue and with some of you being interested in what direction TTSA may be headed in, or the town, and how this land exchange might play into that, you might consider your next meeting on this topic sometime after that June TTSA meeting, which may give you more information that's helpful to you. So
What date in June?
it is the third Wednesday, and I don't have the date. It's the third Wednesday. What the date is June 21st. June 21st? So that's obviously your call, but I just wanted to offer that in case that affected the timing of when you all want.
Is that a public meeting?
Yeah. All of our board meetings are open to the public and live streamed or recorded and then posted on our website. So with that, hopefully I appreciate your time. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more information as to what's going on over on the TTSA side, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if I can. Thanks.
All right, is there any other public comment?
Can I just ask a quick question from the back of the room?
Sure.
Sorry, microphone for recordings.
That's
Yes.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to take longer to walk up than to ask the question. I don't want to do it. Here I am
Thanks,
talking
Ted.
twice at a meeting. I didn't plan to talk at all.
I guess I'll direct it to Mary, but it's really open to any of you. I really appreciated what you said. I followed almost all of it. Can you or someone clarify what a receiver site is? I'm not familiar with that term. Because that sounded important in your description.
So the Brown Act allows you to briefly respond. We generally don't, encourage the back and forth, but I would defer to you, Director Hetherington, if you're comfortable responding.
Sorry, I'm blowing the format, but I just wanted to throw it out there.
If you watch any of those 10 hours, it's where industrial space could go off of the river if there's a place for it to go. And that's what I'm saying.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, is there any other public comment? Anybody on Zoom? Dan, thank you for all that information and for giving us the timeline, because we will be bringing this back to the board, and that June meeting sounds pretty important, so. All right.
My only other comment was related to the special meeting we had on August 10th of '21, where we talked about having a lot of publication for the community to understand this, because, you know, if they don't understand this, then it's, you know, it's us five, it's their five, you know, this is something I would like to see. We talked about in the minutes, say, idea to possibly have a joint meeting between TTSA board and TTAD board to find common ground, as well as more public outreach. And I'm just,
How about TOT?
TOT?
Town of Truckee.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a three-way thing, and it does need to be publicized.
So somebody might actually show up.
Bingo. So that's what I would ask, is that we do a big newspaper blast, our email blast, trying to coordinate that between TTSA, between the town, between us, so people are understanding this idea of a receiver site in case they want to show up and say something.
So is June good? That's,
Yeah, I mean, that would be good, except for, well, the town's meeting is May 9th, their meeting is June 21st, and then ours is June 28th.
A week later.
yeah.
Yeah, so we're not talking about having a joint meeting, because that won't happen. Probably a June meeting, but that people should be aware that if they are interested in this, they should be speaking up at the town meeting, at the TTSA meeting, and here. So all those dates, I would say running an ad, an e-blast, notifying people, these are the 3 critical dates. If you want to see West River cleaned up, these are the entities that are involved.
Okay.
That's what I'd like to see. I don't know that there's consensus.
I mean,
I do remember that conversation from the special meeting, and I remember you trying to get some follow-up after, and my memory is that TTSA had indicated to Kevin that they weren't interested in that at that time. But it was a different board, and we don't know what the conversation was. So I'm glad you brought it up, because it was definitely something that we all felt should happen. Yeah. Yep. Great. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom? Doesn't look like it. All right. Good discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Board committee assignments and ad hoc committee reports. Thank you. Any updates on Tahoe workforce housing since last time?
Yeah, I just provided a summary. The board reviewed our Q1. We keep track of how many workforce housing agency employees have purchased homes. The general public have purchased homes, have utilized our lease to locals program, and it was pretty good. The lease to locals, the long-term rental program, is picking up steam. Emily Vitus is impressed with the amount of homeowners that are approaching them on a weekly basis of wanting to put their homes available for long-term lease. They have 5 listings on their website right now, which I think is the most they've ever had at one time. So she thinks it's, with the winter, transitioning away from winter, and people questioning their choices of living up here, we might see a shift. More houses might be available as as people rethink some of things. They hosted their first homebuyer workshop, which they partnered with Guild Mortgage of Truckee. And it was just a workshop reviewing kind of the state of the housing market and regional programs that are available for our community members to help support home purchase, and also general services offered by the Workforce Housing Agency. We were quickly updated with not a ton of info about our 501c3 status. We have a consultant helping Emily and our ad hoc committee pursue that. And initially, this is going in and out. We were told that we would qualify under the welfare tax exemption, but 2 weeks ago we were told we wouldn't, and we would have to qualify under a different exemption. And they think the closest one we would be able to do is the lessening the burdens of government. And we were explained that if we were to, let's say, manage a Town of Truckee's home access program, that would alleviate the burden of Town of Truckee to be able to do stuff like that. So it depends on a lot more discussion. So we're going to be learning more about that next month. But other than that, it was pretty quick and received a lot of information without a ton of detail. So if you guys have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Your question?
Happy birthday, first.
Oh, thank you.
Second, like, in your opinion, from watching all this, like, when we're talking about, there's 5 listings on the website now, we're like, how do we get to the point where we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of units for workforce becoming available? Is it lacking money, or is it lacking the land? Is it lacking both of them? Is it regulatory? What's standing in the way of us doing this on a much bigger scale?
I mean, the counties right now are exploring larger developments, like Placer County's exploring, I think, the $2 crossing and taking public comment on that. They really want to get that off the ground and running, and that would have 60, 70 units. So it's just getting the right developments going. I know Nevada County has a potential development that was discussed at a high level on the old, is that the CHP site on 89? That would have 25, 30 units. It's just, the biggest thing is making it pencil. The Workforce Housing Agency is exploring land owned by public agencies that could be used for development and building multifamily units on those pieces of property. And the Workforce Housing Agency, that's part of the work plan of exploring those opportunities on that piece of the land. We identified 3 sites. One was with the Truckee Donner PUD off 89. Another one was the school district site up in Kingswood Village, Kingswood Estates, top of 267 going into Kings Beach. And I forgot where the other one was, but they are exploring those 3 lands. Pieces of land. It's hard. We would like to acquire units and multifamily units, the agency ourselves, but I think they did a survey. There's only like 30 in our region, like 20 to 30 of those type of properties. So there isn't even a ton of those available for us to purchase.
I would like to report on Dollar Creek Crossing because and I was involved with it and promoted it. And the first developer proposed 210 low-income housing units and drove the neighbors crazy. And they backed off and looked at the plan, and finally the county submitted a new plan in the last couple of weeks for 110 units, partial low-income housing, which is important because then you can get money to do infrastructure. And then that would be 80, and then 30 units to get to the 110 to be single-family for sale, restricted, that kind of thing. And I thought it was a pretty damn good plan, and I attended NITRAC last week virtually, and I was impressed with the plan, and I was so excited. And even if this got approved, they wouldn't begin construction until 2025, which seems awfully long. And then the public got up, and the same people who objected to the original one objected to this one, mainly because no services nearby, etc. Doing larger projects is very hard and hard to get approved, and you're much better off doing smaller things, not right next to other people, because people object to it. I don't know whether this is ever going to get done. So I was excited and then depressed when I listened to all the comments. So that's my comment on Dollar Creek Crossing.
Any more questions for Lauren? Thank you, Lauren. Okay, is there any public comment on the workforce housing? Okay, we have the reports of the Climate Transformation Alliance. Does anybody have any questions about that? No? Any public comment? And last, act attendance by Board of Directors. David and I went to the last one. What's the next one? Oh, air show.
Air show, yes.
Air show. Who would like to go to that air show meeting? I will. You're always not it.
I'll go if nobody else.
I'm
wants
out of
to.
town.
Yeah.
Playing golf in
Yeah,
Oregon.
David. Yep. Okay. Got it. That's May, what is that? May 10th. Okay. All right. General Manager's report. We've read it. Do you have any highlights that you would like to talk
I've got
about?
a couple highlights that are not in that report, but I'm happy to take questions on the report.
Great.
First of all, I again want to say thank you to Kelly and Emily for a clean audit. That is a tremendous feat, I will say, for the things we have going on and the things we have been working. They're down a person, and they have been for a couple months now. So the fact that they're able to move through that audit on top of everything else that they're doing is impressive. So thank you, Kelly and Emily. Other highlights is just some facts. 2022, our first quarter, you saw the variance report in the finance. We used and expended 1,975 gallons of diesel in 2022 for the first quarter. This year, 2023, the first quarter, we expended 10,350 gallons of diesel. So what does that mean? We were moving a lot of snow off the runways, taxiways, in between the hangars. Just to give you a sense of magnitude of the effort that was taking place out there. So thank you for the entire ops team again. Just want to recognize the considerable work they were doing out there. And we ran the end of the tanks on fuel. We got out the shovels and started moving snow by shovel off hangar roofs. There is a bill in the California legislature that is currently moving through it called SB 720, which is will and could potentially impact the airport district and all general aviation airports in California, which at some level, depending on the final form, will require general aviation airports to start reporting their greenhouse gas emissions to the state of California and documenting those. There's some, different language versions out there right now, but I will continue to track that and report back on that. But there could be further action for us, which is probably mostly in keeping with past studies that has been done at the airport here with quantifying our greenhouse gas emissions. It would just be a reporting mechanism to the state.
Does that include the airplanes that fly in and out? Because that's the bulk of the emissions by this airport.
Depending on the final form of the legislation, it would include those. It would be Category 1 emissions of fuel that we're selling here, essentially. And I will stop there with those updates and take questions if you have them on the report. And before I turn to the other part of the team here for finance and the AVCON report.
No questions?
Any questions? Any comments? All right, thank you. Okay, Aviation and Community Services report. Is that Jeff?
That's me.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'll piggyback on what Rob said with March was a heavy snowfall. It was all hands on deck. So as the ops and maintenance team was out, the AVCOM team was working dispatch. We did a record 42 snow day posts of just keeping everyone, all the users, not only the pilots, but everyone that uses the airport, just the status of the airfield. So busy month. In terms of operations, it's in the report. Operations were very low. 6.5 days, the airfield was closed. So kind of across the board of all aircraft types, total operations and comments, et cetera, it was a very low month. Some things are exciting. The microsites, if you put your attention up here on the screen, Lauren has it up. So this is the new microsite. So we just soft launched it yesterday. You can't find it on a Google search. You have to know exactly what it is. So we're poking around. It's not the final version. I think it's somewhere between the 60 to 80% mark. If you want to click, so when you go there, is what will happen right now. Our current website has everything on there. Instead, if you have aviation specific info, you'll get directed to the microsite. So just kind of hit flight planning and scroll down just a little bit. And so there's pilot essentials, airfield data, procedures, and the intent is to keep it really short, but just those golden nuggets of information that a transient or an unfamiliar pilot would want to know to use to get here. And then if you can back out, and we're working on this. Same with the FBO. If you scroll down a little bit, fuel, services, food, transportation, lodging. Most of this stuff is on our current website, but you kind of got to go hunting everywhere. This is really targeted for that transient pilot that's unfamiliar. If you go back, reservations, give us a holler, and we also have a survey. Again, and we're still working through what those questions would be, trying to keep it really simple, something that we get feedback on, with the focus on what happened in the air, what happened on the ground, how are we doing, what customer service, any feedback for us. So a way to kind of close that loop. So that's the microsite. Over the next week or two, Mark will be getting CMS right so we can start manipulating it ourselves. And hopefully within the next 2-ish weeks, we'll go with a live launch. So when if you go searching the internet or hit our site, it'll take you there as well. On the IT side, we're also been working with Bandwango to make the air show the more interactive experience. If you go to our website right now, there's an online registration, so we're doing early capture information right now. We have a QR code. We'll have one QR code. You can use it right now. You can register. The platform is not live. We're still building it, and the intent right now is the end of May, first week of June, we'll go live with that. So if you do early registration right now, your info's there. When we go live with the Bandwango platform for the air show, you'll get a text message, and then you can get your free pass, which is what you'll be required to attend the air show this year. So it's free parking, it's free access with the online registration, and hopefully we can gather some demographics as to who's attending the air show, and some really cool, exciting things of making that more interactive experience. Potentially using this longer term for STEM outreach. So we have a platform, whatever event or venue we're using, we kind of plop it into this platform, and it can be interactive with lots of ways to interact with our customer base. The last thing I'll add is the flight procedures. I put it in there. Rob and I flew last week. We looked at the different procedures that Flight Tech Engineering put forth. And next month, I'll provide a presentation to try to make between noise and safety some historical accidents we've had here. What I'm trying to do is provide a holistic look as to whether this makes sense for us to do this or not. And I'm still in the process of doing all that and talking with a number of folks here. But that's my intent, is to provide that in May. That's everything I have. Standing by me.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
More for us and then to you.
Sure.
The website, the microsites, all those things, I noticed that noise abatement is on the second level.
Yep.
Can we put it at the very
Absolutely.
first, on every single page, like blinking right? kind of thing?
So, yes, no. So, can we? Of course we can.
I wanted to see if these guys.
No, so let me give you a perspective of what if we go noise. Thank you. I'm not looking at your website. If everywhere I go is noise, what I would like to do is create a golden trough for this horse to drink out of, just dripping with amazing, rich information that I, as a pilot, want to know, and in there have noise sprinkled kind of throughout, as opposed to it just being kind of over the top. But on the top instead of on the bottom, can we have it on the top? We could do something like that.
When you hit flight planning, that's the only place I saw it, on the second row.
Okay.
And I think it should be the first thing.
Yeah, I hear you.
Be on
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. We can do that. And if you click, and again, like I said, this is somewhere between 60 to 80%. So I show you this with caution. But yes, we can definitely, it will be addressed throughout. Instead of it just being, no, I want it in the pilot essentials. I want it in the flight procedures. I want it in the VFR. So it's not noise. It's just interwoven for how you operate your aircraft here. That if you operate your aircraft in these ways, you'll be as noise conscious as possible. So, what other questions?
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else?
I just, I was looking, I've got data going back, and from 2008 through 2012, there were like 1,600 a year jets. Now, the last 4 or 5 years, it's 4,000 to 5,000. So that consciousness of
Right.
we're changing, notice the picture.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And I have asked for, and continue, will the greater than 75,000 being broken out, because our 1129 is rated as a 50/80 runway. And how many of the heavies are we getting? And it's MTOW, and I understand
Right.
they may not be full weight, but we should have a handle on the heavies. And 220 is being redesigned, I still assume, at the 3050, the new design, because
Right.
that's what it was under the old ALP. And we should be aware of, we're trying to get them to use 220, but they're going to be harder on the pavement. So
Right.
we need to be aware of that.
Right.
The idea of interweaving, I think that's a great idea, because VFR is different than IFR.
Correct.
And the effect of that noise, so that I'm appreciative of that. So those were my main things, because when you look at those numbers, it's a big shift.
It is. It is. And this microsite is more tailored, I would say, towards the turbine, someone flying a King Air or a Citation, but the transient professional pilot, as opposed to the VFR. I think our VFR pilots that are quote-unquote transient here probably come here more often. I think we probably have a larger population of pilots that have never been here. They're working in a Part 91, Part 135 air taxi service.
I'm looking at those numbers again. They're, 8,000 to 11, 10,000, and now they're 21, 16, 17, 18,000.
Right.
Of the piston and twin piston.
Right.
So, and they're typically more VFR, except for the Cirrus and whatnot. But that's why I keep asking, IFR, VFR, how we're collecting the data. And so I drag out all that. And that's a tripling of jets. And,
it is.
And we need to be cognizant of that.
Yeah. I will also point out, Mary, that so we had 2 aircraft that were outside of curfew, but that was within the flight quiet window for that operator. And both times it was off runway 11. we looked at the tracks and actually did a really good job of going off 1-1, left 270, climbing out over the airfield and with a flight track over unpopulated area. So even though it was outside of our voluntary curfew, it was within flight quiet, but they were very deliberate of were they managing their noise signature.
Yeah, they should,
So,
give them
yeah.
a kudo, a gold star.
Gold star.
And I even called in once on something.
Yep, we got that.
I asked you to give
Yep.
me a gold star.
Yep.
And then given that, that person who contacted,
Mhm.
Tom. About 15 laps, touch and goes.
Yeah.
We've just been throwing a 33% number at it. But we have cameras, we have counts. I would like us to have a better sense of touch and goes, not just a 33% of the piston aircraft.
Right.
And thinking in the microsite how we reach out to that touch and go.
Right.
And it's tied to wind. Because
It is.
Sometimes they
Yeah.
try to do the different loops.
Right.
But it's a big,
Right.
jets don't bother him, the touch and goes bother him.
Right.
There's other people who are highly annoyed by the jets. And
Yeah.
it's a tough
It's a tough nut to
for you.
crack. It is,
get
and
it.
it's. I think we try everything we can within reason, and we communicate continuously to those that have real and legitimate noise pollution, and at the same time for the aviation crowd that's utilizing these federal runways, and it's kind of like driving on Interstate 80. There's only so much we can do, so we'll do our best to inform both camps. My limited experience since I've been here is the local pilots are very noise conscious, very noise aware. When David reaches out to them, they're very receptive, and there's usually a little bit more to the backstory as we heard tonight. So we'll keep being honest communicators as best we can.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I have just a few questions on that. One, it's like I looked this up. That aircraft traveled 148 miles in our traffic pattern. That's a long that's a long flight. And I think it's also just with regard to what you said. I feel like we do sometimes have the attitude, or some folks have the attitude that, well, you know what, you bought a home next to an airport. What were you expecting? And I say to those same people, you moved in Truckee next to an interstate. So why are we complaining about traffic? It's because the interstate is bringing a lot more traffic than when we moved here. And the same thing is happening at the airport. So while we do have restrictions with regard to legalities of what we can do, I do encourage us to not be insensitive to the fact that this has changed both in traffic on the ground and traffic in the air. Is the new site, the microsite, is it responsive so that it looks great, works great on mobile?
Yes.
Super.
Yes, and is what I can do is I can send everyone here the link, and then you can look at it on your iPhone. What I would ask though is there's still some typos. In order for us to make changes, we're making emails and phone calls with the contractor. So it is not, perfect. And, there's some alignment issues where, there's some eye candy that needs to be airbrushed. Some of the data are still placeholders. So once we get those rights, very quickly over the next 2 weeks, we'll really tighten it up and then go live to the public.
Make it easy for us to find it, please.
I'll make it very easy.
Yes. I think we may hold off another week or so before we ask the board to take a look at it.
Yeah, and my next comment was specifically about that. Have we had a discussion about putting this at its own domain with a super short domain name instead of truckeetahoeairport.com/aviation/pilot/look here? Like if we could register another domain.
I'm thinking. We've not had that conversation, but I think it's something we could look at and talk with the contractor about.
Okay. And because that would be, then it's a lot easier to explain and to share and discuss.
Absolutely.
And get that. And the last thing is just kudos on the air show ticket registration technology. I told Rob, I thought this was something that was going to be a year, 2 years or something away. And when I found out you'd already done it, that's awesome.
We're excited.
I think that's going to...
It's going to be fun. You can earn points.
I registered.
You did? All right.
Already?
I already registered, yeah.
Great.
Where do I
So
find it?
it's
on the front.
It'll be in your email.
Pull up our webpage. It's right now. I think it's the big news item.
That's it for me. Thanks.
It's right there.
It is, register online.
Yeah.
Read the website.
Read. There it is. Click there. Boom. Air show pass.
I'd like to give just a quick shout out to Mike Daniel for the band Wango. That's pretty cool, Mike. That was awesome. That was something you could bring to us.
No problem. Hopefully it works out.
Band Wango,
No, it's
that's his
all
company.
turnkey and fast, but I think a lot of it was
Yeah, it is turnkey and fast so far. It's a great team.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
What did you give him kudos for?
His company, Band Wango. Oh. He's the one who introduced the airport to it. Yes.
I just sent an email.
Anyway, thank you, Mike. That was- it's good timing. All right. Any more questions or comments about aviation? Okay. Kelly, we've all read your report. Did you have any highlights or anybody have questions?
I can just give you a couple fun facts.
Great.
I can echo what Rob and Jeff have talked about. It was a unprecedented first quarter for sure. You can see the revenues were down considerably. However, the fun fact is net income was only off by about $1,000 to budget. So kudos to the team here for keeping all the expenses in check and doing the best we could with the revenues we got. Any questions from you guys?
All right. Any questions or comments? Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, in light of an earlier discussion, future agenda priorities and meeting management.
We have a rolling agenda. If the board members had a chance to look at that, or even after the meeting, if there's highlights or things you would like to have further information on or accelerate or decelerate, I welcome that feedback. We have a handful of agenda items tentatively scheduled for next month already that you see in the rolling agenda. There's a lot of good takeaways from today's meeting. And some follow-up from closed session and from open. I don't think there's any, other than item 11 with the land exchange, tentatively moving to a June agenda to bring it back to you, and trying to coordinate that ahead of time effectively, and making sure that our members of the public are aware of that particular item on our agenda, and that the town will be taking other action that's appropriate to their jurisdictions,
right?
Town or TTSA, that may be related to that item.
I wish the town the best, getting it all done by May 9th. I'm not sure how realistic that is, but does the board have an appetite for having all of that wrapped up before we talk about the land exchange?
What specifically?
Well, their general plan and what the receiving site and what their plans are for West River.
Before we make a decision.
Yeah, so if that's not done by June, we're okay to bump it to July?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to see Jennifer Callavoy show up and report what the town is doing on West River Road, land zoning, et cetera. I said, well, how are you going to get it done? I says, we just want to report what we've agreed to do. I'm somewhat skeptical of them actually making that decision, but we'll see. it's information that I'd
Yeah.
like to have.
Yeah. So, Rob, had Jen pushed her attendance to our meeting to May?
Yeah, we were hoping that, I think we both mutually wanted to see the master plan of the town concluded before, definitely don't want general managers getting ahead of their councils and boards on commenting and opinions before it's been formed.
Okay.
So I think it's more appropriate in May.
Okay. Great. All right, well, is there anything else anybody else would like to see that's not on the rolling agenda or moved up, or we haven't really had a chance to view that, but.
I'm excited that we're going to see the runway utilization report, you know, the biannual, that'll be good.
Yeah, every 6 months will be next month as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Then the action items that you have, these are, I mean, I am curious to see them, but ahead of time. You know, it's we'll need some time to digest what all that is. So, you know, not just the 5 days before, but, you know, some sort of preliminary what your thinking is.
Yeah, so those, for the consent items, currently, I don't know if you want to put those on the, if you pull the rolling agenda for May 24th, 2023. There's consent action and information and guidance as items. The consent items, we will be diving into policy instruction updates as we have been continuing to do. We'll endeavor to get those to the board with edits as soon as possible ahead of that 5-day window. The sponsorship request will probably come in line with the normal consent calendar and the board meeting agenda. Right now we have action, fly quiet 3 policy, hangar policy. These are 2 areas that I know right now, based on recent conversations, that we are revisiting and what we would recommend. But I might move these to a discussion item instead of an action item for next month, because I think we're, as a team, a management team, talking about some different approaches to these, and we definitely want to run that by the board and begin that discussion. I think there's some road ahead still on that, so I would, at this point, say those will probably be discussion items, not action items. And let's see, finalizing the budget timeline. Kelly, you're still good with finalizing a budget timeline for workshops for later in the year for May? That sound good still? We haven't talked about that yet. But I think that's achievable.
And PMCDs
PMCDs are not on there right now. I would put those a little further out until after we complete the policy instruction updates for reviewing those. I tentatively had those on for 3rd or 4th quarter later this year.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's it for May, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, and the takeaways.
Okay, staff and board member conference attendance reports. We've got, you're going to the UC Davis noise in May, that's right.
And Jeff is as well, I guess.
And Jeff, okay, awesome. Are there any other upcoming conferences that anyone wants to attend? No.
No, I'm going to the SHRM annual conference in June, as well as the General Manager Leadership Summit in Olympic Valley. I'm not trying to take Rob's job. They just have really good leadership.
Great professional development program for members of staffs that are up and coming that want to do other things besides what they're doing.
Awesome.
So it's great. I'm happy that Lauren's going to attend that. It's be really good.
Great. Okay, meeting review and direction to staff.
Meeting review, I thought was productive, great feedback, great conversations at a high level. Good members of the public had feedback. I appreciate Dan Wilkins being here and providing feedback from the multiple hats he wears across this community and as a public figure. That was really appreciated. We do have some, as I mentioned earlier, some action items tentatively scheduled for June coming back, not May. But there's some pre-work, obviously, with the land exchange and conversations going on that we'll keep track of and be a part of as a management team and make sure the board's aware of that and members of our community. I'll stop there.
All right. Is everybody done? Make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
Director Diamond,
Yes.
Director Hetherington,
Yes.
Director Odette,
Yes.
Director Rolfe,
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned at 6:19.
Kings Warriors game in 40 minutes.
Time to